Welcome back to another episode of The Marathon. Today, I'm going to be answering your questions about my book. My name's Mare, and I'm so appreciative that you clicked on this video. I just want to say there'll be no spoilers about this book. So if you haven't read it, don't worry. I'm not going to be like telling you things that then would ruin it. I'll be very careful. But life's not a sprint, it's a marathon. I would love it if you laced up and subscribed to my channel today. There's a link down below. There's also a link to the Marathoner Facebook group. Some of these questions are from the group, and then some of them are also from Instagram. You can follow me on Instagram as well. It's at redheadmare. Today we're talking about this, my beloved Finding Your Cape, How to Course Correct and Achieve Greatness When Things Don't Go As Planned. This is my first book, and today she is 1 month and 2 days old, and I'm very proud of this book. I wanted to answer some of your questions, and I also just wanted to say thank you. I'll be saying thank you for a very long time for making this book an Amazon #1 bestseller. So thank you so much. I'm gonna answer some of your questions. And I haven't even looked these over, so let's see them together, shall we? Will your book be released in stores? Right now, Finding Your Cape is available internationally on Amazon. Any Amazon is carrying it for the paperback version as well as Kindle. You can buy it Barnes & Noble, Chapters Indigo, Waterstones. You can buy the Kobo version of it as well. I saw that Walmart, the American site, is carrying it. And if you would like it to physically be sold in your bookstore, just ask them. It's available for bookstores to purchase worldwide. I am told that the physical paperback will be in Chapters very soon and Kohl's, and if that happens, you better believe there'll be a barrage of me crying in bookstores, like signing the book and being very excited. Also, once it's physically in a Chapters, I definitely want to do some book signings there because I have been shopping at Kohl's and Chapters ever since I've been buying books, so that will be a very big deal. But if you have a bookstore near you that you would like to carry it, just ask them. There's a lot of questions about whether or not I'm gonna write a second book, and I just wanted to say thanks so much. This one says, do you have plans to write a second book? I really hope so. Loved reading this one, so I'm very appreciative of that. And absolutely, I definitely would love to have the privilege to write 1 more book, 5 more books. I have a section of this book that we took out because we couldn't really figure out how to fit it in this format that's just sitting on my computer, and I could see myself really expanding on that as well as other topics. So yes, not anytime soon. Right now I'm focusing on the audiobook, which we are so close to releasing, and then I'll be, who knows when, but I hope so, yes. And I'm very grateful that you would like a second book. This one says, you were very transparent. Were you nervous about negative responses? How did you prepare? Absolutely, I was very nervous. I have been progressively preparing for that. I saw my therapist the week the book came out, and we talked about it, and I was very steadfast and confident and comfortable in what I shared and how I shared it, what I chose to not share, and why I either chose to or not, and that really helped me. There are stories in the book that I've never talked about publicly before, and this felt like an appropriate place. I was ready to talk about it, and absolutely super nervous, but the actual opposite has happened, and the response has been very kind and supportive. So it just goes to show, again, as I talk about in the book, how vulnerability sets you free. It really does. I'm grateful to not be holding on to some of that information and some of those stories anymore. It takes away a lot of its power, and I've been able to have a wonderful response. So thank you again for that. There's just gonna be a lot of thank yous in this video. A lot of questions about what was the hardest chapter to write, what was the most difficult to write about. Honestly, there was a lot. There was a lot of tears into my little keyboard as I wrote this book. I found it to be very therapeutic. What was difficult was reliving a lot of the incredible hardship, to put it mildly, leading up to Jeremy's passing, and then what happened after as well. That was really difficult. So it was hard to write it, and then to have to constantly relive it with every edit, because there was about 5 versions of the manuscript before we settled on what became Finding Your Cape. And it was, yeah, very therapeutic, but I had lots of days where I just felt like a masochist. Like, why am I putting myself through this again? When did you actually start thinking about writing the book? To be honest, 2014. I was journaling and things were what I thought was rock bottom, and obviously wasn't even close to it. But I remember thinking, like, this will help someone someday. I'm going to write and I'm going to persevere and I'm going to get through this, and it will be for a purpose. There has to be a purpose for everything that I've been through. So a long time. I've been thinking about writing a book for a very long time. And then I first started working with Simone, my editor. We first started talking about it in 2018. So a very long time. A very long time. Someone asked, are you going to do a book signing for those who bought off Amazon? I am doing an appearance at the Summerland Library on April 4th. So if you're around, once the details come out, of course I'll share them on all of my social medias, but you're welcome to bring your book there and I'll sign it. I'll also be selling books and merch there and doing a reading and a Q&A. And I don't have any plans to like set up shop to sign books, but like, you know, if I'm ever doing something, you're welcome to bring your book and I'll happily sign it. Okay, there are some questions about some stuff in this book that I'm gonna be very vague about because I said I don't want to have any spoilers, but this one says, I've been watching your YouTube channel for years and page 37 shook me. Has this been mentioned before? No. And then someone else said, I'd love to know more about how you had the courage to share what happened with Jer. And without going into details, because I don't want any spoilers, I had never felt ready. I had never felt that it was necessary to share, that it was, you know, anybody's business. And I was reeling from what happened and was just in no place to even form sentences to coherently talk about it. And I thought that the book was the right place. I struggled with it a lot on how to tell that story, but I am very aware that a lot of people are in that situation because I get a lot of messages from people, and I wanted to be that voice. Whether you're in a specific situation and you have a spouse with mental illness, or you're just in a tough relationship, or whatever it is. How did I find the courage to do it? I knew it would be in the book. How did I find the courage to do it? I have no idea. It took a very long time and a lot of writing and a lot of chipped nails on the keyboard and me walking away for weeks at a time. My editor, Simone, was very patient, and it is a part of my story and it's a part of a lot of people's story. And I finally felt ready to share it on my own terms, for my own reasons, again, to make other people feel less alone, to make myself feel less alone, but by no means was it easy. Hope that's like answers your question, but it's still vague enough. Oh, the sun is shining. Hold on. What were you thinking when you sat down and started to write the first chapter? Is it a clear memory? This is overwhelming. and having no idea what this would end up being. The title was one of the last things that I finally settled on. The cape analogy, you know, that came pretty early, but then deciding the cover, deciding the title, the subtitle, so much of it, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Is there one particular quote or sentence in the book that you absolutely love? That is so hard. I think I could literally do this and just pick one. It's been very like heartwarming and gratifying and fun to be recording the audiobook and to be like reading things and going over it. I'm so proud of this. Maybe the dedication, honestly. It says, for Thomas, may you always feel your cape behind you. Maybe that's it. I don't know. I'm just so proud of this book. Now I'm gonna turn to the questions from the Marathoner Facebook group. There's many that are like multiple parters. Is there anything that didn't make it into the book that you initially thought you might wanna cover / talk about? I had a whole chapter that was very detailed, introducing you to so many of my close friends and why I love them and how they've been so supportive. And we ended up taking it out because, for one, it was like never ending, and for two, it wasn't necessarily like relatable. There's a lot of parts of the book where I leave names out because I want you to feel that you can see your story in mine. So that was a huge chunk. And there was so much more about grief. So much more that I took out. I had a few stories that I wanted to share that I'd never talked about because I wanted to make sure, like, if you've watched every video or you've listened to me on the radio or you've watched every like post I've ever done, that you still would feel like this was brand new to you. But I didn't know. I didn't know what I was getting into. How did you approach it at first? What were the initial steps you took? I hooked up with Simone, who is a marathoner. I will link her website down below. And she said that she wanted to help me get a book out into the universe. So she would start sending me writing prompts to get me just back into writing. I've only done basically short form radio writing besides the endless pages of journaling, even though I love to write. So to kind of get my juices flowing and, you know, take the dust off. And yeah, I just kept thinking of like topics that I wanted to share and stories that I wanted to share, and she did too. She came over a couple of times and interviewed me and recorded it so that we could kind of get a flow going and stuff. So she was instrumental. How did you get everything you wanted to from your head to the paper? Was there organizational sheets? No, there was just like a lot of Post-its and meetings and Skypes. No is the answer. Was reliving the trauma you encountered as hard as you thought it would be? If so, how did you push yourself out of your comfort zone? Yeah, it was so triggering to write this book. Like I said, I walked away from it multiple times. Not like, oh, I'm not doing this, just girl needs a break. Therapy, I saw my therapist intermittently. I was just kind to myself. It was great that we never had a steadfast deadline. I never felt pressured, but it was very difficult to relive so many horrific things that honestly, I think just now I'm really allowing myself to feel how horrific they were, as bizarre as that sounds, because I've just been in this motion of like, go, go, go. But on the flip side of that, very gratifying in seeing where I was and where I am now. Like, my whole body just got covered in goosebumps to see how horrific it was, and to go back and read those journals, and then to read my journals and see like me writing, this is what I want my life to look like one day. One day this will be calm. One day I won't have so much pain. Like one day, you know, like so many things. To read that and then now be like, that is literally the life I'm leading, was like an out-of-body experience. And I don't think I wouldn't have had that had I not written the book. I never would have paused to think, oh, look how far I've come. No, because like I said, I've just been like, what's the next thing? Make Thomas dinner. He's sick. Now I'm sick. I have to work. He has school. He has appointments. Like, I'm just on this continual life of treadmill, you know? And to stop and actually be like, wow, that was awful. I don't know how you got from there to there, but you did. It makes me wanna just like hug Mare from 5 years ago and be able to tell her, like, you got this, just keep going. It will, you know, it's gonna get worse before it gets better, as I talk about in the book. Writing that letter to myself in the book was very therapeutic. We didn't edit it at all, but it's given me a lot of like self-compassion, just like a self-hug, if that makes sense. How have family, especially on Jeremy's side, reacted to what you wrote about? My family has been incredibly supportive. Some of them said, like, you know, they learned stuff about me that they didn't know. I think my mom was very touched by how she's like portrayed in the book, and you know, it's nice. I think I'm so happy that she's able to read how influential she's been, and my dad as well. I think that it was really nice for his sisters to see that. So they've all been super supportive and wonderful. And Jeremy's family has been incredibly supportive. I, you know, told them that I was writing the book, and from the get-go, they have just been on board. Like, they are on Team Mare. They're so supportive. They are very happy that, you know, I continue Jeremy's legacy. I don't think any of them have read the book, and I'm not sure if they will. Maybe one day. It's hard for me to relive it. I can't imagine what it would be like for them to. They're very supportive. I would never expect them to read it. Like, it's a horrific thing, you know, so I would never want them to have to relive it. If you could change one thing about the book, what would it be and why? Oh, I know. So this cover, I designed myself. I created it. Same with the back cover, but my good friend Jessica, who is an author herself, Jessica Williams, I'll link her website down below. She's written many children's books. She took this and made it so that there was a spine and it looked good for this format and for all the formats. And she did that after I had the manuscript converted. So I wish, like, where it says, you know, cover and interior design by Mare, photography by Amber Lee, I wish it said, like, book cover made to look perfect by Jessica. That's why. That's like the one thing I'm so like annoyed with myself. She doesn't care. I have apologized. She's like, whatever. But that's one thing that I'm like, dang it. Have you received any feedback from readers that you didn't expect? I mean, I didn't expect it to go #1 on Amazon in multiple categories. I just mind blown. Like, all those bookstores that are selling it, blown. The fact that it's in the library, like, what? But I will say I got a message from a gentleman who served in Bosnia, and my book is helping his PTSD. What? Like, the amount of men who have messaged me saying that this book is helpful is like, that I wasn't expecting. As I was writing it, I was trying to make it like gender neutral. Like, I didn't want it to be like she, and the cover I tried to make as like neutral as possible so that if you were like reading it in an airport, it wasn't like, you know, different. I will one day show you what the other cover was, but it was like red with like a woman in a cape, and you know, I wanted it to be accessible and I wanted people to see their stories in it. And I'm so overwhelmingly honored how many people are taking my story and applying it to their lives, finding their own cape and making change and helping themselves. Like, that's all I could ever expect. Someone asked me like, what would make this book successful? And I think that they were thinking I'd be like 10,000 copies. That. You reading it and you doing some shit, as I say in the book. That is success to me. Like, I don't want anyone to feel how I felt in my darkest, horrific, loneliest, saddest times. I want you to know you have a cape. I want you to know you're not alone, and I want you to know what you can do with that. So that response has just been like more than I could ever ask. Okay, I think that's enough questions for today. I'm gonna leave it on that note, just by me being so honored and grateful for the response to this book. If you haven't picked it up, you can find it. There's a link down below. It's Finding Your Cape, How to Course Correct and Achieve Greatness When Things Don't Go as Planned. Thank you for all of your support. I cannot thank you enough. If you've read it and you liked it, please leave a review on Amazon or on Chapters or Barnes & Noble, wherever this book is sold. And I will keep you posted on events that I'm doing and signings and stuff, because the journey for this book has just started, that's for sure. So thanks for watching. Thank you for your questions. Group hug, lace up, subscribe, become a marathoner. Life's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Go out, find your own cape, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye.